I was with my girlfriend for almost 2 years. And at first, man, I thought she was the one. You know how it is, you meet someone. Everything feels easy, like you've finally got your person. We laughed about the dumbest stuff. Stayed up late talking about dreams. About the kind of life we wanted to build together. And I'll be honest, I pictured her in my future. I really did. But here's the thing. Life has this way of testing you. It waits until you're comfortable. Until you start to believe things are solid. And then it yanks the floor out from under you. That's exactly what happened to me. When we met, I was doing okay, good job. Steady income. Nothing crazy but enough that we could go out to dinner. Take a weekend trip. Buy each other gifts on birthdays. And she liked that life. She liked the comfort. But about a year and a half in, things went south fast. The company I worked for cut half its staff. And just like that, I was out. No warning. No backup plan. Suddenly, I went from ordering takeout 3 nights a week to figuring out how to stretch $20 into groceries for both of us. And at first, she said all the right things. We'll get through this. Don't worry. I'm here for you. And I believed her, because you want to believe the person you love. Right? But slowly, so slowly I almost missed it, she started changing. Less patience. More sighs. Checking her phone all the time. Making excuses to stay out later. And me? I kept telling myself it was just stress. Just a phase. Truth is, I was in denial. One night, I suggested we just stay in. Watch a movie. Eat ramen. Make it a fun broke night. She looked at me like I was insane. I can't live like this. She said. 5 words. That's all it took to break me. I laughed at first, nervous laugh, because I thought she was joking. But then she went into the bedroom, pulled out a bag, and started packing. Not gonna lie, I froze. I couldn't believe it was actually happening. I asked her, "Wait, are you serious?" She didn't even look at me. Just zipped the bag, grabbed her stuff, and walked right out. You ever hear the sound of a door closing and feel like it's the loudest thing in the world? That's what it was. I sat there for hours, staring at the half-empty closet. Just waiting for her to come back. Waiting for my phone to buzz. But nothing. She was gone. And let me tell you, those next few weeks, they were hell. I was broke, heartbroken, humiliated. I started asking myself, was she right? Was I not enough? I mean, how do you build yourself back up when the person you thought loved you the most leaves you at your lowest? Truth is, I almost didn't. But then something snapped. I got angry. Really angry. And I told myself, fine. If she couldn't handle me at my worst, then she sure as hell wouldn't deserve me at my best. From that moment on, I worked, non-stop, day jobs, night hustles, teaching myself new skills, reaching out to anyone who'd give me a shot. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't easy. But slowly, piece by piece, I started climbing again. And every time I wanted to quit, I heard her voice in my head saying, I can't live like this. That voice fueled me. Guess what? A year later, I wasn't just okay, I was thriving. Steady income, savings in the bank, new opportunities opening up left and right. And then, just when I thought I'd buried her memory for good, my phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. After everything, after months of silence, she was calling me. And you won't believe what she said when I finally picked up. So there I was, sitting on my couch, staring at my phone like it had just turned into some kind of bomb. Her name lit up the screen. And my first thought was, nah, this has to be a mistake. Maybe she butt dialed me. Maybe it was one of those weird glitches where an old contact pops up. But the phone kept buzzing. And not gonna lie, my heart was racing. After everything she put me through. After all those nights of silence. Why now? Why her? I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. And then, like a fool, I answered. Hello? My voice cracked a little. I'll admit. And then I heard her. Hey, it's me. Just like that. Casual. Like no time had passed. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? She left me when I was flat broke. When I had nothing. When I was eating peanut butter sandwiches and praying my rent check wouldn't bounce. And now she sounds like she's calling an old friend for coffee. I didn't say anything at first. Just let her fill the silence. And guess what? She did. She started talking fast, telling me she missed me. That she'd been thinking about me. That she realized walking away was a mistake. A mistake. Those were her words. And I just sat there listening, letting her dig her hole deeper. Because deep down, a part of me, the hurt part, the angry part, wanted to hear her admit it. I wanted to hear her say she was wrong. But at the same time, another part of me, man, it wanted to believe her. You ever feel that? Like your head is screaming one thing but your chest, your heart, it's whispering something else? That was me in that moment. She told me she'd been dating. But nobody measured up. She said she missed our talks. The way I made her laugh. The way I always had potential. And that word, potential, it hit me like a punch in the gut. Because back then, when I was broke, I didn't need someone to see potential, I needed someone to see me. And she didn't. She saw bills, she saw stress, she saw struggle, and she ran. Now, with my new job, my new car, my new place, suddenly she remembered my potential. I asked her straight up, "Why are you calling me now?" There was this pause, just a few seconds, but it felt like forever. And then she said it. "I heard you've been doing well, and I guess I was hoping we could reconnect." Not gonna lie, I almost laughed. Because yeah, she was right. I had been doing well. I wasn't the broke guy she left behind anymore. But the fact that she admitted it, that she came back only because she knew I'd climbed out of the hole, man. That told me everything I needed to know. Still, I played along. I asked her how she was, where she'd been, what she'd been up to. She talked about some new job, some new friends, a couple of rough relationships. She said none of them treated her the way I did. And the whole time, I was thinking, yeah, because when I treated you well, you still left. She asked if we could meet up for dinner. Just to talk, just to catch up. And you know what? Against my better judgment, I agreed. Not because I wanted her back. No, it was because I wanted answers. I wanted to look her in the eye and see if she really believed she could just walk back into my life like nothing happened. The night of the dinner, I showed up to the restaurant. Nice place. Not too flashy but definitely not the ramen and couch days. I got there first, sat down, ordered a drink, and then she walked in. And let me tell you, she looked almost exactly the same. Same smile, same hair, same perfume I used to buy her on birthdays. For a second, just a second, it all came rushing back. But then I remembered the night she walked out. The sound of that door closing. The silence that followed. And I grounded myself. She hugged me like we were long-lost lovers. I gave her a polite smile and sat back down. We talked. Well, she talked. About how she'd been lonely. How she missed the way I made her feel safe. How she realized now that money isn't everything. And you know what? I almost believed her, until she slipped. Until she asked about my new job. About the promotion. About how much I was making now. That's when I knew. That's when it all clicked. She didn't miss me, she missed the stability. The security. The lifestyle she thought I could give her now. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her use me as her second chance. But I wasn't going to blow up right there. Either. No. I was going to take my time. I was going to make sure she knew exactly what she threw away. So I smiled, nodded, and said, "Yeah, maybe we can see where this goes." But inside, trust me, I had other plans. So there I was, sitting across from her at that dinner table, nodding like I actually believed everything spilling out of her mouth. And truth is, part of me wanted to just stand up, tell her exactly what she was, and walk out right then and there. But another part of me, the colder, sharper part, wanted her to feel it, to feel the weight of what she'd done, to realize that she couldn't just walk away when things got hard and come back when it was easy again. So I played along. I told her she looked great. I told her it was nice to see her. I even laughed at one of her old jokes just to keep the mask on. Inside though? Inside I was burning, really burning, because I remembered those nights I couldn't sleep, when I was counting pennies for groceries. And she was out there living her better life. And now here she was, acting like we were picking up where we left off. I let her talk. I let her go on about how lonely she'd been, how she realized money isn't everything, and how she finally saw that what we had was real. But you know what I noticed? Every time the conversation drifted toward me, toward my job, my new apartment, the car I was driving, her eyes lit up. Not when I talked about how hard I worked. Not when I talked about the grind or the lessons I learned, no. It was when I mentioned things. Tangible things. That's when she leaned in closer. That's when her smile got wider. And I thought to myself, this isn't love. This is convenience. She doesn't miss me. She misses the version of me that can make her life easier. I paid for dinner, of course I did, and she gave me that smile. That, I knew you'd take care of it, smile. And instead of being angry in that moment, I just let it fuel me. We walked out. She hugged me a little too long. And she whispered, "I'm so glad we're doing this again." And I whispered back, "Yeah, me too." But inside, I was already planning. Over the next couple of weeks, we saw each other more. She texted me good morning, good night, all those little things that used to mean something. And not gonna lie, sometimes it felt good, like slipping on an old jacket you forgot you loved. But then I'd catch her slipping, little comments like, "Wow, your place is so much nicer than our old apartment." Or, "I love that you can afford to eat out now." She wasn't careful. She didn't even try to hide it. And that's when I knew my plan was working. I let her think we were back together. I let her think she had won me over again. I even introduced her to a couple of friends, just casually. Nothing serious, because I wanted her to feel like she was really back in my life. And then one night, she looked at me with those eyes, the ones I used to fall for, and she said, "I really think this time, it could be forever." Forever. I almost laughed in her face. But I didn't. I just smiled, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "Yeah, maybe it could." But in my head, I was already setting the stage. I wanted her to be comfortable. I wanted her to believe she was back in control. Because when the truth hit her, when I finally pulled the rug out, it was going to hit harder than anything she'd ever felt. And here's the thing, I wasn't just doing it for me. I was doing it for that version of me who sat alone in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd ever be enough. I owed that guy a little justice. A couple weeks later, she started hinting about moving in together again. Not straight up, but little comments like, "It would be so nice not to have to drive back and forth all the time." Or, "I forgot how good it feels to fall asleep next to you." And I let her say it. I let her dream it. Because I wanted her to believe the fairy tale was coming back. But in reality, I was already lining everything up for the ending I knew was coming. The truth is, revenge isn't about yelling or fighting, it's about patience. It's about waiting until the exact right moment to show someone what they lost. And trust me, that moment was getting closer. It didn't take long before she started turning up the heat. You know how it goes. First it's casual hangouts. Then it's, "Let's spend the weekend together." And before I knew it, she was leaving stuff at my place again. A toothbrush in the bathroom. Her sweater draped over my chair. Little things that said, "I'm moving back in whether you realize it or not." And truth is, the old me, the guy who was desperate for her love, he might have let it happen. He might have let her slide right back into his life. But the new me? The me who clawed his way out of the hole she left him in? No way. Still, I let her think it was working. I let her get comfortable. Let her play house. Let her believe this was all falling back into place. Because the more she believed, the harder the fall was gonna be. She started dropping hints, subtle at first. "Wouldn't it be nice to just combine our lives again?" Or, "You don't need all this space for just yourself." And I just smile and say, "Maybe, we'll see." And every time I didn't shut it down, her confidence grew. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger again. Then came the night she laid it all out. We were sitting on my couch, glass of wine in her hand. And she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I think we should move in together again. I want to be with you. Really be with you. This time, no games, no leaving." And I almost laughed out loud. Because that was rich, her saying no leaving, when she was the one who walked out the first time. But I kept my face calm, nodded slowly, and said, "Yeah, maybe you're right." And in that moment, I knew she was all in. She thought she'd won. She thought the door she slammed shut once before was open wide again. But here's the thing. What she didn't know was that I'd been keeping something. Receipts. Literal receipts. Photos. Old messages. Reminders of the nights she wasn't there when I needed her most. I had proof of how she left. Proof of what it cost me. And proof of what I'd become without her. And I was ready to use it. The next week, I invited her out to dinner again. Same restaurant as before. Same table even. I wanted the symmetry. I wanted her to feel like this was the moment everything was official. Like I was about to make some big gesture to show we were back together for good. She dressed up. I could tell she thought it was gonna be one of those storybook nights. Maybe she even thought I was gonna pull out a ring, I don't know. She was glowing, smiling, acting like this was her big win. And I let her have it. Through appetizers, through drinks, through the main course, I kept her floating. I asked about her day, complimented her dress, even held her hand across the table. I wanted her at her absolute peak, because I knew the drop was coming. Then, right as dessert was about to hit the table, I leaned in and said, There's something I want to show you. She looked excited, like she was about to hear some romantic confession. But instead, I pulled out my phone. And I opened a folder. Inside were photos of me in those days after she left, me with eviction notices taped to my door. Me scraping change together. Me eating alone at a table with a single bowl of noodles. And I said, "Do you remember this?" Her smile froze. She blinked at the screen. Not sure where I was going. I swiped again. Screenshots of the texts she ignored. Calls unanswered. The messages where I begged her not to walk out. And I said, "This was me. This was me when you decided I wasn't enough." She looked like she'd swallowed glass. She tried to say something. But I cut her off. "You left me when I had nothing. You didn't want me, you wanted comfort. And now that I've built something, now that I don't need you, you show up again like nothing happened. Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Her eyes were wide, her hands shaking just a little. People at the tables around us started to notice the tension. But I didn't care. I leaned back, slid the phone across to her, and said, "You don't get to come back. Not now. Not ever." And the silence that followed, man. It was loud. She finally whispered, "But, I love you." And I just shook my head. "No, you love what I can do for you. And that's not the same thing." I stood up, dropped cash on the table for the check, and walked out, left her sitting there with all of it laid bare. And as the door closed behind me, I swear, I felt lighter than I had in years. Walking out of that restaurant felt like walking out of a cage I didn't even realize I'd been living in. The air was cooler, the streetlights brighter, even the sound of traffic felt different. I'd carried that weight for so long, that need for her approval. That ache of being left behind, and for the first time, I felt free. Not gonna lie, I half expected her to chase after me, to grab my arm and beg me to listen. But she didn't. I didn't hear her heels clacking on the pavement behind me. Didn't hear her voice calling my name. And that silence, that empty space where she used to be, it wasn't painful anymore. It was peace. I got into my car, sat there with my hands on the wheel, and just let it sink in. You ever have one of those moments where you realize you've been fighting a battle that's already over? That was me. I didn't need to prove anything to her. I didn't need to rub my success in her face. Didn't need to make her understand the nights I suffered alone. The fact that she came crawling back told me everything. It told me I had grown. And she hadn't. It told me that love isn't about convenience, or comfort, or potential. It's about staying when things are ugly. When life is messy. When the bank account is empty and the fridge is bare. And she failed that test. I drove home, parked outside my place, and just sat there looking at the building. Not a mansion, not some palace, but mine, paid with my sweat, my grind, my refusal to give up. And in that moment, I realized something bigger than the breakup. Bigger than the revenge. I realized I didn't need her anymore, not for love, not for validation, not for closure. I had already given myself all of that by refusing to quit when she did. Over the next few weeks, she tried again. Texts, calls, little messages like, "I miss you," or, "Can we just talk?" I didn't respond, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. The chapter was closed, and I wasn't about to reread a story that had already broken me once. Truth is, the old me might have caved. The me who thought love meant holding on no matter what. But the new me understood. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let go. And you know what? Life got better. Opportunities kept coming. Friendships deepened. I even started dating again, careful this time. Slower, making sure I was building with someone who wanted me, not what I could give them. And every time I felt doubt creep in, every time I wondered if I was good enough, I remembered that night in the restaurant. The look on her face when she realized she couldn't just waltz back into my life. That memory wasn't pain anymore, it was power. Here's what I'll tell you. Because maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've had someone walk out when you were at your lowest. You're gonna feel like it's the end. Like you're not enough. Like you'll never climb out. But trust me, you can. You will. And when you do, when you stand tall again, you'll realize that anyone who couldn't love you at your worst doesn't deserve to stand beside you at your best. That's not bitterness, that's truth. Because real love doesn't run when the lights go out. Real love holds the flashlight and stays with you until the sun comes up. I didn't get that from her. And maybe that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Because losing her forced me to find myself. And now, looking back, I don't feel anger anymore. I don't feel hate. I feel gratitude. Gratitude that she showed me her true colors before I built my whole life around someone who didn't value me. Gratitude that I learned the difference between being wanted and being needed. Gratitude that I finally see my worth without needing anyone else to confirm it. So if you're listening to this and you're in that dark place, if someone's walked out on you and you're staring at the pieces wondering how you'll ever put them back together, just know this: you can. And one day, you'll thank yourself for not giving up. I walked away from that restaurant lighter than I'd ever felt. And I haven't looked back since. She wanted me back when the storm had passed. But the truth is, the man she left behind doesn't exist anymore. And the man I became? He doesn't need her. He never did.